McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Many of you would have been watching or listening to the news today. And the first day at the Central Criminal Court has heard claims a 33-year-old man accused of the murder of Aisling Murphy confessed to being involved in her killing. Joseph Puska from Linally Grove, Mucklagh, County Offaly, has pleaded not guilty to murdering the 23-year-old school teacher who died while exercising along the Grand Canal in Tullamore on January the 12th, 2022. A little bit earlier on, Jane, our producer, spoke to court reporter Andrew Lowth on the first day of the trial. And this is what he had to say.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for speaking to us this evening. Firstly, can you remind us of the facts of the case and exactly what Joseph Puska is accused of?
Good evening. So the facts of this case really are as follows. Aisling Murphy, she was a 23-year-old woman, a school teacher in Durrow National School in County Offaly. On the 12th of January 2022, she died after she was out exercising along the Grand Canal in Tullamore, and she died at around 3:30 that afternoon. Now, the man accused of her murder is a 33-year-old man. He is named Joseph Puska, and he is accused of her murder. And when he was arraigned before the Central Criminal Court yesterday, he pleaded not guilty.
So what happens on day one of a trial like this? Okay,
so what essentially happens now is, so yesterday we would have had his arraignment where he pleaded not guilty, and then a jury of 9 men and 3 women was selected, and they are now responsible for kind of overseeing the trial. And today what we had this morning was the opening statement of the DPP. So I suppose to kind of go into detail, just to kind of describe that a little bit, what it is in general, it's essentially the first chance for the DPP to talk to the jury. Now, it's important to stress that the opening statement is not evidence, and the jury were reminded by both Mr. Justice Tony Hunt, who is the trial judge, and the prosecuting barrister for this case, who is Anne-Marie Lawler, of that fact. So essentially what it does, it gives the DPP the chance to outline what it is they have against an accused person, and in this particular case, Joseph Puska.
Okay, and what did they hear? What were those details?
Well, Anne-Marie Lawler said that Aisling Murphy was 23 at the time of her death and had been working as a primary school teacher in Durrow. She left school on the day of the 12th of January 2022 and went for some exercise along the Grand Canal, and she was killed, as I said earlier, at around 3:30 that afternoon. Now, the jury was told Aisling Murphy was stabbed 11 times in the neck, and Miss Murphy and the accused did not know each other prior to this particular alleged incident. So she said Joseph Puska was a Slovakian native and he had been living in Ireland since 2012. Now, in her remarks, Anne-Marie Lawler said that it's the state's case that Joseph Puska killed Aisling Murphy on January 12, 2022. He denies her murder. She said the jury will see CCTV evidence which shows Mr. Puska cycling in close proximity to 2 women on separate occasions in Tullamore on the day Aisling Murphy was killed. Now, Ms. Lawler added that they will also hear evidence from 2 women who witnessed the alleged attack on Aisling Murphy, and how one described seeing her legs kicking as well as the alleged features and demeanours of the assailant. Ms. Lawler also claimed that the area in which Miss Murphy was killed along the Grand Canal in Tullamore had large overgrowth and was covered in briars, and it's alleged that Mr. Puska had cuts in exposed areas of his body, which Ms. Lawler says is consistent with leaving the scene.
I know that Ms. Lawler also told the jury that Joseph Puska told Gardaí through an interpreter, "I did it, I am the murderer," when he was interviewed in St. James's Hospital 2 days after Aisling Murphy's death, and that he didn't do it intentionally. Is that important, that he said he didn't do it intentionally?
Well, it is correct that Miss Lawler made that allegation. Now, remember, just to kind of go back to what I said before, this is not evidence. This is what the prosecution is outlining that the jury will hear in evidence. So, essentially, just to kind of provide a little bit background to what came to be what you described there. So, Miss Anne-Marie Lawler said there will be CCTV evidence which allegedly shows Mr. Pushka arriving at his father's home in Crumlin in Dublin in the early hours of January 13th, and he will be seen with a beard. And then the next morning, CCTV will show him clean shaven being brought into an ambulance and to St. James's Hospital. Now, it's here where he will have claimed to have been stabbed in Blanchardstown the previous night. There was actually a Blanchardstown on that occasion, and he was interviewed by Gardaí, who then referred him to officers in Tullamore. Now, it's alleged that he met with Tullamore Gardaí twice while he was in hospital, and the second time it's claimed to have told an interpreter on the phone, and the interpreter said to Gardaí over the phone, he wants me to say it, I did it, I murdered, I am the murderer, as you already outlined. Now, this is before Leighton saying that he did it, but it wasn't intentional. And it's then claimed later that he said, I'm sorry, I see girl I never see before. I have knife I use for chain. When I pass her, I cut her neck. She panic, I panic. Will I go for 10 years? Now, the prosecution say this evidence about how Miss Murphy died was not public at this stage. So he also pointed to his stomach where he had this apparent stabbing I outlined earlier, and he said, I do this. Now, this is according to Miss Anne-Marie Lawler of the prosecution, who was outlining her evidence. And he was later formally arrested, and it's the state's case that he made up a pack of lies about the stabbing in Blanchardstown, and the prosecution say that the accused admitted to murder, confessed it to a level of detail which that person would know what happened.
And when it comes to the jury, I know that Judge Tony Hunt said that it may not be humanly possible for members of the jury not to have heard about the case, but that it's essential that they can approach it with a fair and open mind. How important is that?
That's correct. So Mr. Justice Tony Hunt was making the point of the duties of the jury and how important it is for the judicial system in which it is able to function. So this had all taken place yesterday when a jury selection was ongoing, and Mr. Justice Tony Hunt, he had asked the jurors that, if they had participated in, say, social media discussions about this case, then they shouldn't serve if they can't approach it with an open mind. And that, he said that it's inevitable that the members of the jury would have been aware of this case and that they did have to come to it with a fair and open mind. And he made the point that, if there was anybody in the jury panel who felt they couldn't come to this case with a fair and open mind, they just needed to tell him and he would excuse them and nobody would get in trouble. So, he said that there is a presumption of responsibility that for someone who signs up to a case like this. Now, the case itself is expected to last for up to 5 weeks. The defence believes it's 4, but Mr. Justice Tony Hunt said that it would be prudent to allow for a potential 5th week.
What can we expect from tomorrow?
So tomorrow it's expected that we will start hearing some more witnesses. Now, I should actually point out that we did actually hear a couple of witnesses today. Now, that was in relation to some photographers, some pictures and some maps as well. So this is generally how that court cases like this go. So they'll have the opening statement and then they'll proceed to maps and photographs. And the first witness today was a cartographer. He travelled to the scene on the day of the alleged murder and he provided the jury with 7 maps outlining the scene and the areas involved and the CCTV involved. And the court heard that it was a challenge to plot the map of the scene of the alleged murder because of overgrowth and briars, which I outlined earlier. And we also heard from Detective Caroline Hughes, and she took photographs on the day of the alleged murder. She said when she arrived there was a crime scene tent erected, some industrial light to aid them, and it was about 7 o'clock that evening, and there wasn't much natural light. And she also said that there was the body of a female in the tent. Now, tomorrow it's possible that we could hear up to 12 witnesses, and there wasn't really much detail explained in court as to what those witnesses are. But if we just refer back to the opening statement of Miss Anne-Marie Lawler, she said that among the witnesses are 2 women who came across the alleged attack, and they'll give evidence tomorrow or not. I'm not 100% sure, but we can be expected to hear them at some stage.
Okay, Andrew, thank you for that, and we'll catch up on Thursday.
No problem at all. Thanks a million, Jane.
There's court reporter Andrew Lowth talking to our producer Jane earlier on in relation to the first day of the trial of for the 33-year-old man Josef Puska, who was accused and pleaded not guilty to the murder of 23-year-old school teacher Aisling Murphy. That trial, by the way, is expected to last, as you heard already. The judge has allowed a 5th week, while the defence believes that it'll only last 4, has allowed a 5th week for that trial. So we will wait and see. But we will give you 2 reports per week and a bit of an update on the trial to let you know how it's going, because I'm sure most people, there seems to be certain national interest in this particular trial.
Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.